Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You'll be listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. More than 6 decades of doing phenomenal work in San Diego County, and a lot of great causes, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's the homeless, Alzheimer's, arts, financial education. They are just always on top of their game, as is this group. One of the top organizations dealing with seniors, and that's St. Paul Senior Services. Happy to have back in making a return appearance Todd Kaprielian. He is the foundation CEO of St. Paul Senior Services. Good to see you, Todd.
Good to see you, Drew. Thank you for having me.
Well, just in a nutshell, you can say St. Paul's has always been on top of its game on this, but maybe just a quick little bit on the mission of St. Paul's.
We are here to serve seniors of modest means. That was in our bylaws back in 1960, and it continues today. We offer affordable housing, and we also offer a healthcare program for very low-income seniors.
Yeah, and I think, as we've mentioned many times, and honored when Amanda first came on board, and we started this podcast 20 years ago, and I think, she might have been one of our earlier guests when she first came on. She just retired, your marketing guru, so to speak, and just a delightful woman on this. But I think, what you folks do is something that we're not too good at in this country as a whole. Other cultures seem to do a better job, and that's hard to put the United States under one culture. There's 4 billion other cultures. We understand this. But taking care of the seniors is not something we're too good at. You guys are experts and love it. It's in your DNA. As a whole, we're not too good.
Yeah, there's definitely room for improvement. That's the way we like to put it. Whether it's housing, whether it's healthcare, absolutely. As people progress in their aging experience, as they go past retirement, they start to experience things a little more challenging. Everything from simply making an appointment to see their healthcare professional to making ends meet just day in and day out. So we really need to think about how do we do things that are more accessible for older adults.
Right, and it's interesting, our previous guest, who you know very well, Jose Cruz, the CEO of the San Diego Council on Literacy, just ties right into this. As we get to be more digital, as we get to be more focused on AI, those seniors who are 80, 90 years old didn't grow up with this. That gap widens, and you talk about accessibility, and now all of a sudden, I don't have any young grandkids running around to show me what happened to my phone when I hit the wrong button, for God's sake. Right. But in all seriousness, that's an issue, is it not?
Absolutely. It is interesting. In our residential communities, we are seeing people move in more and more wearing wearables.
Right.
It's an Apple Watch or something.
Right.
And they're starting to become more aware of what exercise they're doing, what they're not doing. But there is always a gap there. And we do offer some options, some educational options to help people become more comfortable with technology if they're interested, and really be able to benefit from the different information they can gather, the way they can relate to family members who are maybe out of town and have a virtual get-together. All those little things just add quality of life for somebody so that they can really socialize more.
Well, and you hit something that's key that's certainly been a huge issue in recent years. And again, you guys have always been on top of this. But it's now getting to the vernacular, I think, as the general public, and that's isolationism. We've never seen the levels of this grow so fast. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, obviously it started with the pandemic. People were just isolated, young and old. I mean, everybody experienced it. For those who are elderly, what it can really have is detrimental effects on cognitive functions, and you start to see some decline. Coming out of the pandemic, everybody says, hey, we're back to normal, right? Not necessarily, no. Sometimes these new habits die hard, and we really have to make an effort to socialize, to engage. And sometimes that's for us to remember, you know what, we need to engage the elderly people in our community, but then also for the elderly to say, hey, I want to be engaged and I want to be part of things. So it's this give and take, and it's always a relationship of open dialogue, but really we're just trying to get people to be aware that there's so much more to benefit from community than from the convenience of isolation.
Yeah, and one of the many things you've hung your hat on is that you want those seniors as much as possible to stay in their homes if they can in that area, or come out and be part of a whole group in that aspect of it. But that takes resources and the fundraising to have those resources. And you got a pretty cool Summerfest coming up.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. August 15th over at Humphreys by the Bay. It's a great venue for bringing 450 people together to celebrate the mission of St. Paul's and really support our programs. We're going to have everything from a live band. We're going to have the photo booth. We're going to have the Lucky Lounge. So I have a little fun with Game of Chance, and no one's walking away, breaking the house and walking away a millionaire by any means. Nobody's winning anything really, but it's just the fun of the whole experience, being with friends and see if Lady Luck is coming your way. But we'll have other features too. We have Carlo from News 8 joining us, and he'll be our MC, so we're super excited to have him. He's been a great guy to partner with. Last year it was Marcella Lee, and now we have Carlo, so we're looking forward to it.
Right, and so tickets are on sale right now?
They're right on sale, yep. You can go to our website and purchase a ticket. We'd love to have people there, and again, celebrate the mission of St. Paul's and really prioritizing the elderly.
Right, and what hours is it at Summerfest?
So we start at 5 o'clock. It's great. Okay. So the program ends by 8 o'clock, and then we have dancing going on, and really people stick around, and they're talking, they're sharing. We have a lot of community that happens at our event because of the informality. A lot of times organizations have a gala, and a gala, okay, you associate some formality with that of, maybe even a tuxedo or a suit or something. For us, we call this the anti-gala. So this is the reverse of that, where people are coming in with tropical wear. It's really a classic San Diego attire on a August evening. So it's a informality that's just very conducive to just being with friends and conversing and just having a great time.
And it's a beautiful venue down in Half Moon Marina as well. We're chatting with Todd Kaprielian. He is the foundation CEO for St. Paul's Senior Services. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest running community podcast. We're in our 20th year, brought to you by the fine folks of Mission Fed Credit Union. Talk a little bit about the McColl Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation Center.
Yeah, so this was one of our communities that opened up in 1982. So we're going way back. We had St. Paul's Manor, and that was our flagship for the longest time. Then in 1982, we had the McCall Health Center. And that was a big stretch for us. The Manor is independent living. We were experimenting with assisted living over at the Manor, and this was before assisted living was an industry. It didn't exist at that point. And we were
Interesting.
Yeah. So we had people who were living with us, and they were starting to have an escalation in their needs. They weren't as independent as they were before. So, we wanted to accommodate them in very specific apartments where we'd be able to offer additional assistance. Okay, great. So now you have this continuum of care, starting with independent, now assisted living, now the skilled nursing. That's what the McCall Health Center was going to provide. So that was a big step for us in terms of the level of nursing care that we're going to offer, the regulations that come with it. It was really a stretch for the organization. But we had people in the community who were just so dedicated to making this happen. John A. McCall and his wife Sharon, they were the leaders in the fundraising effort for the McCall Health Center. Would you like to hear a fun fact about the fundraising here? It was really pretty extraordinary. They had fundraised for their goal. Okay, we can do the construction, but they went over on the construction, and it often happens with big projects like that. So now they needed money. They needed $250,000 that nobody had. We had nothing to put up as collateral, so the banks were saying, "I'm sorry, we love you guys, but we don't have anything." Do you know what they did? 4 members of the board put some of the equity in their home for their Do Good project, so this project could move forward. They could continue with the construction and open the community. I don't know about you, but I belong on the board of a few organizations, and would I put some of the equity in my home on behalf of their mission? I don't know. That's a big stretch, but they rose to the occasion.
But when you think about it, and again, this is in your guys' DNA. It's you understand the senior world. What amazes me, Todd, is how many people that don't think they're going to be seniors. I go, you will be a senior, okay? Whether you're, 3 years old, like our senior producer, Brandon Joe, or, you're 45 or you're 30, doesn't make a difference. And I've never understood this. And I'm not sure, maybe they don't have a connection to their parents or their grandparents, and we can certainly understand that, but you're going to be there, okay? And you're going to want to be able to have organizations like St. Paul's or Serving Seniors, or the wonderful groups that you work very closely with, vibrant in this area. What is the reluctance for people to understand this?
So, it is interesting. There are certain things we want to talk about and some things we don't want to talk about, when we talk of end-of-life care and advanced directives and things like that, or even simply my retirement and how much I'm saving or how much I'm not saving.
Makes me nuts.
Yeah. And it really is. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And sometimes that's hard for people to remember and really open up to that. But, it's the financial literacy you were mentioning that.
Yes.
Well, that carries into your retirement and planning for that, and not just relying on Social Security, but realizing that, you need to supplement that, because San Diego is not a cheap place to live. And yeah, so it's...
But you're spot on this. When we talk about it quite a bit, you just got a chance to meet Doug Wright, the president and CEO of Mission Fed, and Doug was the CFO before he got promoted, and Doug would be a frequent guest on the show, and he still is. But when he'd come on, he'd talk about how, and maybe other countries are like this too, we don't do a good job saving, and it's just a simple math number. We talk about it quite a bit when we have some financial planners on there. Even if you put $50 away a month, okay, and then maybe when you can afford it, it's $100 a month, and then down the road it's $200 a month, and that's all it is. It's going to be your investment. So when you hit 60, you would be surprised if you start at 20 with that amount. What's going to happen in 40 years?
It's compounding interest.
Correct.
It's a wonderful thing.
It's a great thing. We come back, we're going to continue the conversation with Todd Kaprielian. He's the foundation CEO of St. Paul's Senior Services. We're going to talk about all the things that they do for the seniors, and most importantly, get people to go to Summerfest August 15 at Humphreys, and whatever else we can do to support St. Paul's. We will chat about that when we return after this very short break.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 60 years of doing phenomenal things for people living in San Diego County. Just always pleased to have return appearances, but organizations such as the St. Paul Senior Services, joined by Todd Kaprielian. He's the foundation, CEO. Todd, you guys are so mindful of, the services to provide those seniors, whether it's connecting them with other seniors or with young folks and all that business. But the main thing is, they got a lot of juice left in them. We can't ignore them. Talk about all the things you do.
Yeah. So we have a very robust activity programs in all of our residential communities. We have vehicles that are going on to outings, whether it's to a local museum, to the flowers up in North County, just very much engaging in San Diego and everything that we have to offer. So activities is really front and center for much of what we do. And then we also have the PACE program. You have people coming in, typically they need assistance getting from point A to point B. So when they come into the PACE Center to receive clinical services, we also have a social program for them. We have it waiting there, where you go into our center over in Chula Vista, they have the DJ coming in. It seems like every day I go there, there's a DJ, and people are singing, people are dancing, whether it's standing on their feet or even in their chair. It's just that kind of activity that is just really hard to say no to. And that's what's beautiful about the PACE program, is that you may come in because you're going to see the podiatrist and maybe even the dentist. Okay, that's great. But from their point of view, they're coming in to see their friends. They're going to have a hot meal for lunch, and they're going to be visiting with people. They're going to have fun. And oh yeah, by the way, the dentist is available now to see you. So okay, the dentist happens, but it's in the context of something social. Obviously for the staff, they're making sure that healthcare is really a vital part of it. So they're making sure that happens. But so it's nice to be able to have a more rounded experience of healthcare, where you're looking at community. And you're asking yourself, gosh, you've got all these friends that you're making. And to be able to relate with each other, and they'll do art projects together. And from what I've heard from people who are in the program, they learn from each other and about each other, and they just enjoy themselves and what they're able to do each time they come into a center for healthcare services.
Well, just imagine, and again, getting back to the point we talked about earlier, Todd, that you don't have a connection. Your family is all, maybe they're passed away, or maybe they don't have a relationship with them, or they're 3,000 miles away, and it's just you here in a very expensive place to live, San Diego. And we hear this all the time from our friends from Meals on Wheels, okay, that do phenomenal work, our Mama's Kitchen. Sometimes the only time that person hears from someone is when the meal is delivered to them. And think about that. So they're going to grasp every 5 seconds they can in this area, and here you are bringing everyone, together on that. How much outreach do you work with the colleges or younger kids to get them engaged with your group?
Right. So we do a variety of things. Right now we have the museum school across the street, and the kids there, so you have middle school age kids, they're interviewing the residents over at the manor and talk about this blending of generations, where people are talking about life before cell phones and life before Google and life before all the things that they're familiar with. Social media wasn't even a concept back then. So it's good to see that interplay there. We also have a very robust program of working with schools for interns. And we're working with students where now they're coming from high school age and they're doing projects together. We're working with a new one over at UCSD and business management. So we have a project there for students with advanced degrees. So you got a lot of blending of all this activity that we really want to extend our reach and being able to bring people in and learn about seniors and really have a greater working knowledge of the senior community and the needs of seniors, and be able to address them and be part and integrate them into our community.
Well, and I think, when it comes down to it, and not too different something when you talk about food insecurity, and listen, anybody, if you want to sit there and donate, a can of food or whatever, is going to go a long way. anyone that wants to spend some time with a senior or volunteer at your place or play an instrument for them or tell stories, just even if it's only 1 hour a month, 1 hour a year, it doesn't make a difference. We have 3.3 million people living in this county. Is so critical. And talk a little bit about the hidden middle. I think that's something that's important for people to hear.
Right. So the hidden middle, that's a term we're using for people who've lived in the middle class all of their life, and they've been able to do that because of their work and constantly getting a paycheck. Okay. But now as they turn 65, as people start to retire, and they may encounter some healthcare expenses that suddenly spends down some of that nest egg that was really supposed to generate income for them to supplement their Social Security. Well, because of those costs of healthcare, you see this downward trajectory towards diminishing financial resources. So now we got a problem where somebody could be at risk of homelessness even. So we're asking ourselves, how do we help people who are in that trajectory, who are vulnerable to that, and how can we slow that spend down? So how can we provide healthcare services to them and provide stable housing at the same time, integrate the two, and really allow them to have a much better experience of the aging experience towards the latter years of their life?
Well, and you bring up something that you work with any of the senior groups, you work with the folks that deal with the homeless. One of the fastest growing populations of the homeless are seniors. And that's been a trend that's been going on, part of it due to something you folks are very, very keen to. We're living longer. And we're living longer means we're out, we're outspending our money, so to speak, in this area, which gets back to, trying to be as financially sound as possible. Easier said than done, especially in a place like San Diego. But it's true in this area. And starting earlier, and again, which is what you guys always talk about, is critical. But even just getting the whole population to understand, again, I wish I could inject everybody with, you will be a senior yourself, okay? And you may be fortunate that you have a family that lives here and that you got cousins and grandkids and all that, but that necessarily isn't the case with everybody.
Yeah. At one time when we opened our PACE program, we did a survey. We looked at everyone. There was about 200 people enrolled at the time. This was early on. And we asked ourselves, how many do not have family here in San Diego? Family to support them. And the number was 83%. Can you imagine? I mean, yeah. So, that's where, you start to see where the PACE program becomes the family.
Correct.
And you got that caseworker. And if you know a caseworker out there, someone who does social work, please give them a hug and tell them you do very important work, because we tend to overlook their contribution in helping people stay independent, helping people get health care. They do such miracle work. I have the utmost respect for them. So, it's being able to really fill in some gaps in people's lives. It's no fault of their own. They don't have that infrastructure of a family unit. So now, how are we going to help embrace them and give them quality of life, give them health and well-being? So that's the challenge that we face with our PACE program. We have outreach team that goes and talks to people in their homes, in their community, and tell them about the program and how to enroll into it. And really, it's a very special program that is for a very vulnerable population. These are low-income seniors who have multiple healthcare needs. They come in, we've had people 10, 15 different health issues going on simultaneously. Can you imagine that? Very complex health issues. We bring them into the program. There's that orientation. We start to review everything that's going on. There's an interview. What are they trying to achieve through their health care? Can you imagine having that kind of conversation with your primary care physician? What do you want to achieve through your health care? So that's where they become not a patient, but they become a participant. We call them participants in their health care. And that's just a very rich and powerful dynamic that they're starting to ask that question in more mainstream healthcare, is how do we provide goal-driven healthcare, goals that are coming from the person being served, not from the physician, not from the other providers providing care to them, but what do they want? And so now it's really a level of engagement that I certainly don't have those conversations with my doc whenever I see him once a year. So this is where it gets exciting of how we can take that PACE model and things they do really well and start to say, how can we offer that to people who are not eligible for PACE, but they want to have that high-quality experience with healthcare professionals. And so that's going back to that hidden middle. Okay, that's where we feel that if we can elevate the healthcare they're getting by providing some ancillary services around it, some wraparound services, we'll be able to give them a different experience. So this is something that we're experimenting with in a controlled setting with researchers, one set for one study over at UCSD and another one over at SDSU. And we're starting those right now, and we're starting to recruit people, and it's really some great, fantastic work that we're doing. We're super excited.
Well, you come back as you will, because we can't talk enough about all the great things that you do at St. Paul Senior Services. I'd love to have an update on that somewhere down the road, 3 months down the road, if you got some data on that as well. And again, encourage everyone to support Summerfest. It is August the 15th at Humphreys fundraiser for St. Paul's Senior Services. Just go to the website to sign up for it. It starts at 5 o'clock. It's a great afternoon. And the website of St. Paul Senior Services is awesome. There's you heard Todd talk about PACE. You talk about Summerfest. You talk about what's going on. There is a place for anybody that has any question about senior services there. Todd, shout out your website one more time.
Yeah. www.stpaulseniors.org. O-R-G.
Very good, Todd. Kaprielian, he is the foundation CEO of St. Paul's Senior Services. Promise me you'll be back on in no time to talk more about what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Love to, Drew. Thank you.
Well, we can't talk about it. You folks. Enough. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast in our 20th year. We're very proud of that. Brought to you by the fine folks of Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of doing great things in our county. And to our audience, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.